everybody, and welcome back to another Board Game Breakfast. This week, I'll be at the UK Gaming Expo. Sam Healy is going with me. We have our schedule up. If you go to the forums, I have it pinned to the top. You can see our schedule there, but suffice it to say, on Saturday, we'll be doing a couple live shows. On Sunday, we'll be doing a Q&A. Saturday night, I'll be playing a live pandemic game. And we'll also be bringing promos if you want to get promos from us. And we're just there to see people, say hi to people, come by, say shut the door. There's a lot of stuff. We put up our UK gaming preview of the show last Saturday. So kind of like what we're looking forward to seeing and stuff that's going on there. Live Q&A today at 4 p.m. I'm going to be doing a Q&A just before I jump on an airplane and fly over to the United Kingdom. So looking forward to that. And because I'm going to the UK Gaming Expo this week, next week is going to be a little bit late. So look for Board Game Breakfast next week on Tuesday rather than Monday. All right, well, let's get to the news. Okay, so what's in the news this week? Well, first of all, Asmodee is bringing Looney Quest to America. I'm very excited about this. Doodle Quest is a game where you basically draw on transparencies, then put them on top of pictures to see what it looks like. Doodle Quest has that same idea, but with a fantasy setting. Very excited to see this one come. Speaking of bringing things to America, Crash of Games is bringing back Finca. Finca, a game about collecting fruit, some of the coolest wooden pieces in a game ever. And I'm very pleased about this one. I was actually nominated for the Spiel des Jahres back in 2009. A game with kind of a rondelle. Definitely want to check that one out. Portal has announced Tides of Madness. We've already spoken about this. Is the same as Tides of Time, but with a Cthulhu-style theme. Very similar games, except you can go mad. That's always fun. The Spiel des Jahres nominees were announced, like as I put up Board Game Breakfast last week. But in case you missed that, the Spiel des Jahres nominees are Codenames, Imhotep, and Karuba. And the reason I'm going through these quickly is because I'm going to talk about this more in Tom Thinks. The Kenner Spiel, which are the more complex games, are Isle of Skye, Pandemic Legacy, and Time Stories. The kids' games, the Kinderspiel, are Leo Goes to the Barber, Stone Age Jr., and So we'll talk some more about this later on in the episode. Let's see. If you want to check out Eric Martin's reports from the Tokyo Game Fair, they're on Board Game News at BoardGameGeek.com. And this seems to have been leaked on the internet. Arkham Horror, the card game? Asmodee is saying no comment for now, but I bet you there's something coming. Anyhow, let's get to the Kickstarter news.
Happy breakfast, everybody. We've got quite the mix of things to look at today, including Vikings and heroes and princes. Oh my. In an unusual move, Vikings Gone Wild is moving from App World to Analog. Players are competing to have the best Viking tribe in this deck-building game. There is a lot going on in Vikings Gone Wild, including building up your town, managing resources, completing missions, and attacking your neighbors. Now, battle is pretty important for victory here and managed through warrior and defense cards. And along with those cards, you can also buy buildings and other cards along Odin's path that will let you improve your deck and really build up a strategy. Things like Divine Favor cards mix up the game and can boost it, and overall everything just looks really good and shiny, pulling heavily from the app design. There are a lot of different pledge levels in Vikings Gone Wild because there are also 3 available optional expansions if you want them. But almost every pledge level includes in-game currency credit for the app version. But if you just want to jump in at the base level, it'll take a pledge of $39. Mercury Games is bringing back the 2003 Martin Wallace game Princes of the Renaissance. In this heavy auction game, players are competing for money and influence by bidding for control over cities, factions, and powerful people. You're also going to be building up your armies because combat is an important mechanism in the game with a twist, because you're going to be bidding on whether you want to be the defender or the attacker in an embattled city. There are treachery cards that will really let you mess with your opponent, or when it's strategic, mess with yourself, because there are scenarios in which it's more advantageous for you to lose a battle. Princes of the Renaissance is a complex and deep game in which every decision is absolutely critical. It's highly regarded, has been long out of print, and it's in pretty high demand with players who prefer weightier games. You can get a copy of Princes of the Renaissance for a pledge of $55 US. On the other end of the gaming spectrum is The Princess and the Goblin from Bellwether Games. This is a memory game for 1 to 4 players about a princess who follows a golden thread into the caverns where she rescues a friend, and then they have to make their escape before they're caught and kept in the Goblin Kingdom forever. In this game, players will flip over the path tiles one by one and place them face down in a grid. This matters because you can peek at the adjacent tiles. You can also use these breadcrumb tokens that you get to help you remember critical details. When you think you've looked at enough tiles and you have enough information, you can try to make your escape by flipping over the tiles one by one and forming a path as your escape route. But if you make a mistake, it's going to help your opponents, and if you accidentally flip over a goblin, you have to start over. The Princess and the Goblin will most definitely tax your memory game skills, and it has wonderful fairy tale theming. You can get a copy for a pledge of $19. Last but not least, Pencil First Games, publisher of Liftoff and Siblings Trouble, is bringing us an on-the-go trick-taking game designed by John Gilmore, who you may know as one of the designers of Dead of Winter. Heroes and Tricks is won by winning the most tricks and collecting the most heroes, but there's a twist or two. First, there is a huge deduction element in this game because only the lead player of each round will know what the actual target suit is. Everyone else has to play their card based on the card played right before them. And the box itself helps facilitate this with its unique peekaboo design. Not only does that box help keep the cards hidden, it also enables you to play the game without a table because literally all of the gameplay happens within that box. There are also some really fun gear cards that will mix up the way the hands play out and add some variety to the game. And you can get a copy of Heroes and Tricks for a pledge of just $20. Okay, that's all I've got for you this show. Hopefully something caught your eye, and until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.
Okay, I wanted to take a little moment to talk about the Dice Tower Awards. Tom nominated those games which are eligible for Dice Tower Awards a little while ago. Then we in the network here will vote on them, and then in July at the Dice Tower Con, these awards will be given. It's very exciting stuff. Now, something that I've noticed is that a lot of people really like it when I do intricate, complicated, esoteric statistical analysis of awards and rankings. So I got to thinking, to what extent do the Dice Tower Awards affect the People's Choice Awards, which are voted on really just a few months from now? If we, the Dice Tower content creators, approve of a game and talk about it more, is it more likely to figure highly in People's Choice? The answer is yes, but it's not 100%. So reaching back to 2011, almost all of the games made it onto the top 10. Eclipse, which won Best Game, King of Tokyo, which won Best Family Game, and Dixit, which won Best Party Game. All on the People's Choice, no big surprise. Flashpoint, which won 3 awards, was also there. Add to that Mansions of Madness, which won for Components, Rick's Legacy, which won for Innovation, and Lord of the Rings, TCG, which won for Artwork. Congratulations! You're all winners, except for a few acres of snow. I guess that Halifax Hammer isn't so unbeatable now, is it? And that game looks so boring. The following year, we had 4 big winners. X-Wing, Love Letter, Mice and Mystics, and Space Cadets. Each took at least 2 wins. All of these except the last one, Space Cadets, appeared on the People's Choice. It stands to reason that the fact that the game's designer, Jeff Engelstein, is a member of the Dice Tower Network, that we in the network are a little bit more favorably inclined toward him, and he's going to figure higher in anything we do. Note that in 2012, the war game winner was 1812 Invasion of Canada, and it did not appear on the People's Choice. Perhaps it was because of this that Tom discontinued the war game category for subsequent years of the Dice Tower Awards. But what happened in 2013 and 14? We'll find out next week.
Hi, this is Mike with the Board Game Makeover. In last week's episode, in the comments section, it was pointed out to me by Mesmerized that I looked angry in my videos. I appreciate the feedback. And it made me think, why do I look angry in my videos? So I thought of the top 5 reasons I might be angry in my videos, but I'm not. Maybe it's because Tom and Jared, they're making their own board game laws. I'm not. Maybe it's because I hosted my first Board Game Makeover live Q&A and only my mom showed up. She didn't have any questions. Maybe it's because Jeff Engelstein and I have a lot in common. We both have daughters that are smarter than us. Maybe it's because Rob Oren's biceps are so big they get their own zip code. Maybe it's because in last week's Dice Tower podcast number 459, Tom, Eric, and special guest Jorge Garcia kept using the word evocative to explain board game artwork. I had no idea what that word meant. I don't think any of those have to do with why I look angry on my videos. I just have to smile more. So I'm going to try to do that. So in today's episode, I'm going to show you a board game with a big heart, Medieval Academy, but it lost its soul when they made these little boards for it. To make the board bigger, I just had to reproduce the image and put them on these 8-inch balsamic laser cut wood pieces. I really like the wood because it doesn't warp. Now I usually use these little mini poker chips. They weigh about 7 grams and they're very hard to find. I've got a few left, so I have to be selective in what games I put them in. But I did find these little 2-gram poker chips online, and they're cheaper, they're smaller, and they actually work pretty good in this game, so I have a bunch of these ones to use now. And if you're wondering, yes, playing games on a plane got this makeover too. Thanks for watching the Board Game Makeover. We'll see you next time.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
And I'm Stephen Bonacor.
Hey, and we have a question from one of our listeners, which I thought Steve might actually be able to answer, as he's a publisher. And many people talk about the secondary market, and many electronic companies have taken steps against the secondary market. Well, they'll put a certain number of activations on their computer games or whatever, so that people have to buy them direct from them. The secondary market doesn't make you money. If you sell me a game for $40,
Of course.
and then I sell it to Jason for $30, you don't see that 30. That 30 comes to me.
Of course.
So, is the secondary market good for the hobby? Yes or no?
Let's let Steve answer first.
Obviously, the community itself is going to just do that, going to have that ability because they're all friends and they have the Board Game Geek to use as a platform to do so. There's nothing wrong.
eBay's big.
eBay, of course, right? So there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's your game, it's your book, it's your whatever. It's yours. You do with what you want. And I've already made the money. If it's from a published perspective, I've already made the money by selling the game. I don't expect to make more. There shouldn't be an expectation that if you buy it in a thrift store, for instance, and it's missing half of its pieces or something, that the publisher's on the hook to give you pieces. Certainly not for free. So that could be an issue, but it's your game and you deal with it as you wish. You trade it, you play it, you burn it. It's all yours.
Well, I have 2 thoughts on this, and actually now I have 3 thoughts based on what Steve said. Because
Well, I have now 4.
Because I always wondered about that when you buy something secondhand and you're like, oh, it's missing 2 pieces. Do you write to the publisher and say, I'm missing these 2 pieces of my game? And how do you show proof of purchase to the publisher to get the 2 pieces that are missing if you buy something? So that's one thought, but more about secondhand games. I think that good games should stay in print, and the thing that annoys me more, and we had this discussion a long time ago, is when there's a limited supply of a game and people buy it up to then mark up the prices and scalp them for higher prices. Like the Small World Designers Edition, there was people who, they were supposed to sell 1 per person. There were people who got 3 or 4 of them and then bought them for $400 and sold them for like $1,500. And to me, that's where I think it's wrong. I don't think you should take advantage of a short supply to do that. And
But isn't that capitalism?
it is, but I don't feel it's right because I don't think this is the kind of industry where you do that. I think this industry is too small and friendly and tight knit. It's not the kind of industry where you want to, milk your friends for money or milk the people for money. So it kind of makes me annoyed when I see stuff like that happen.
I'm a free market guy, so you should be able to do what you want. But I get your point. I mean,
So
it's
what if you're giving out promos at a convention and someone comes and grabs and gets a whole lot of them, and then you see them selling them on eBay for $10 a pop?
They shouldn't grab a whole lot of them. They should grab the one, or whatever it is that they're taking. They should be honest about it. There's a certain amount of trust and honesty in it, and if they end up going to sell it, again, it's theirs. They should do with it what they want. Maybe people shouldn't be so completist and have to have every bit of something and spend all that extra money on something.
But what about, let's say something else.
Human
Let's
nature.
say you're at Essen and you have 50 copies of a new game. So people are lining up to buy this game. You sell the first 50 people, and this 51st person after, you're like, sorry, we're out. Okay, that happens, right?
Sure.
Then you find that 5 of the first people are selling them on eBay for 3 times the price.
It's sad, but it's not something that I can police. I hope that people don't do things like that, because that will, could hurt things over time because this is a community, right? We're all trying to do this hobby together. But I don't know that it's certainly not up to me, a publisher, to police it. I don't think it's up to any person to police it. Don't get the game at an exorbitant rate, because if it's a good game, someone, hopefully that original publisher, is going to publish it. You'll get it a little bit later in its second printing, which might have corrected some of the errors in the rules and things like that anyway.
Alrighty, folks. Well, that's our secondary market question. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
And I'm Stephen Bonacore.
Tell us what you think. See you next time.
Hi, welcome to Painting Miniatures 101. Here we are at Orlando's premier pop culture event of every single year. It is MegaCon 2016, and I've got a couple of special guests with me today. It's Katana and Harlequin. So Katana, who won last week? Descent, and it won by pretty much a landslide. So who do we got coming up next week, Harlequin?
Shadows of Brimstone and Mice and Mystics.
Yeah, they're going to be taking on, and that's a real heavyweight battle. So remember, just leave your comments in the bottom of the page, or just email me at NovaPrime860. Meanwhile, we're going to go check out more of the con. Say goodbye, girls.
Bye.
Hi, my name's Dave Adams. Welcome to Good Game, Better Gamers. In the last few weeks, we've talked about my experience of Dungeon Twister and how I got off to a bad start by applying some negative habits of mind. In particular, we talked about my mental filter and the critical self that crept in as a result. Both of these habits were reinforced by critical evaluations or judgment. Critical evaluations or judgments tend to make decisions about the experience of a situation rather than the reality of a situation. Now, in Dungeon Twister, the critical evaluations I made about my gameplay was that I wasn't a smart gamer or a good gamer because I'd stuffed up the placing of my tokens so poorly. Now, to overcome these negative judgments, I had to come to terms with the reality of the situation, and that is that this was my first time playing, and during the setup I really didn't have any understanding of strategies or tactics or what I should have been doing. That really what I needed to do was just relax and accept that sometimes you have to be bad at something before you get good at something. And the reality was that during the game, I made some really good moves. In fact, I managed to put pressure on my opponent, and I managed to score back a number of victory points to make for a tight finish. These are all positives, and probably reinforce the reality that I'm a better gamer than I thought I was when I was experiencing those negative judgments. We're going to explore a few more of these negative habits of mind and some of the things that we can do to overcome them in the coming weeks. Until then, I'm Dave Adams. Enjoy your breakfast.
So what's coming from the Dice Tower this week? Well, we're going to be doing our live playthrough of the latest Time Stories module, the Shadow of the Mask. So I'm looking forward, that was a lot of fun for us to play. Even though I'll be gone in the UK, we've recorded some stuff ahead of time, so there's going to be various reviews going up this week. The biggest review will be a Miami Dice of the new Dead of Winter, the Long Night module. We'll be taking a look at the different changes that were added in that one. And I believe there's also going to be a back talk going up this week with special guests and a board game blender going up Thursday. So lots of content coming. Then, of course, there is the Dice Tower. And all the other podcasts on the Dice Tower Network website, so you can see all those. We try to update those and keep things going. So lots of things going on. Let's keep going.
Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here. And during a recent family reunion of mine, while I was forcing my distant relatives to watch old Head in the Clouds segments, we came across the episode where I discussed the concept of Grail games. The quest to rediscover what this game was became an obsession, like a quest for my own personal holy grail. Now, that segment brought up a really interesting question related to the board games that we find ourselves searching for, trying to obtain. Now, while a Grail game is an existing game that you're looking for, what about those games that you can't obtain because they don't exist? Your dream game. What would your dream game be? Unfortunately, before I could share my answer with my family, they caused a distraction and escaped out an open window. But don't worry, I remember the answer that I came up with, so I'll describe my dream game with all of you right here, right now. What's the... Hey! My dream game would start with a complex, just unholy amalgam of the mechanisms from the Civ building and technology tree choices of Sid Meier's Civilization, but incorporating the fine granularity down to the Sim City levels of the intricacy of providing resources and power and water and transportation routes to your citizens. You would start out the game with nothing but just a settler or two, and then use that to build and create a thriving civilization using your resources and your ability to trade and barter with the other players, all to your advantage. But then, you take that civilization that you've built up and you cultivate an army within it. And then, when the time is right, you use your military might to threaten, coerce, and invade your opponents, who, all the while, have been doing the same in their own civilizations. Ooh, sweet. Now, the main problem with my dream game is that the sheer magnitude of the amount of record keeping and maintenance that it would require would make it pretty much unplayable in the real world. But I can dream. After all, the time spent mentally toying with dream game concepts, sometimes leads to variations and innovations that become the real games that we all know and love. So, what about you? Do you have a dream game? What would the ultimate game that you would design be if money and resources and the limits of time and space just weren't an issue? Let me know in the comments below.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another segment of Board Gaming with Colleagues with To Die For Games. I'm Mandy, the board gaming pinup girl.
I'm Tracy, the gaming maven.
And I'm Steph, the games teacher. Hey Mandy, do you know what time it is?
It's lunchtime!
Today we're going to look at Monster My Neighbor. It's a 3 to 8 player game, plays in about 20 minutes, designed by Pesu Nabino and published by Z-Man Games.
So the objective of the game is to win. Okay, I have to give you a little bit more than that. You want to use your deduction mind skills if you can try and get the monster and then play the monster when no one even knows it's coming.
The game plays over 5 rounds where you get 4 cards each person. So you build a deck, and the deck has a start card, a hide card, and a hunter card, as well as a monster, in addition to the other cards brought into the deck.
We played a 4-player version of this game, and it played in about 20-25 minutes. We were learning it for the first time. I found that with 4 players, it was not very difficult to keep track of who had what cards. With more players, that would be better, so maybe suggest a higher player count.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed the art in this game. It has that anime, kind of Japanimation style. Oh, so cute. But men like it too, so very cool. What'd you guys think?
I love the cover. The cover says it all for me. It kind of reminds me of the old 80s movies, the old 80s monsters movies.
Whoa.
I really like the artwork. It was well done.
Yeah, perfect. So overall, that's it. We really enjoyed it. So definitely pick this up if you want to play with your colleagues. Probably would use it for larger groups, maybe 4 or more. So that's it. Time to get back to work. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.
Okay, so today I want to talk about the Spiel des Jahres, which is the game of the year in Germany. Now, this has been out for many years. I believe the first one was 78 or 79. And every year when it comes up, it's one of the biggest announcements there is. There's a lot of discussion about it. They used to do 5 nominees. Then now they do only 3. They used to have one award, and sometimes they do a special award. Several years ago, they split it into the Spiel des Jahres and the Kenner Spiel, which was kind of like an advanced strategy game. And every year people complain and say that the advanced strategy game is actually a normal strategy game, and a strategy game and their regular game is kind of a too light of a game, and how the award has lost its way, and blah, 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 blah. So the fact is, I want to know, are these rewards still relevant for today? And I think that they are. The awards are, they make a big splash. The games that win them sell quite a few, especially in Germany. But definitely every game that has won the Spiel des Jahres has made a big splash. We talk about it. It comes out with expansions. It might not be like an amazing game, but almost every amazing game that has sold millions has at one point been either nominated for Spiel des Jahres or won it itself. And I think that the award is still very relevant today. It may not be what you are looking for, and a lot of times people who are advanced gamers and play a lot of games, they get kind of like annoyed, like, how can I be best game of the year? Well, this game is a game made for families to enjoy. So that's what the category is that they're looking at. And they're not like gamers looking for the best game of the year. There are plenty of awards that do that. This is a game that's meant to sell. So let's take a look at the nominees for this year. We have Codenames, Imhotep, and Karuba. Codenames and Imhotep, I've reviewed both of those. Karuba Z has reviewed. What do I think will win? Well, honestly, I think Imhotep will win, and I'll tell you why. Codenames is certainly the darling of everybody, gamers everywhere, but I'm looking at the jury itself, and the jury tends to pick family-style games, and so I think that's the one they're going to pick. Codenames is certainly popular, so I mean, I think this is a very wide-open slate. Anybody can win this award, right? But I'm going to go with Imhotep. The one I think should win, probably Codenames, just because of how popular it is. But I think Imhotep's going to pull it off, but I will not be upset if any of the three win. Now for the Kenner Spiel, we have Isle of Skye, Pandemic Legacy, and Time Stories. What do I think will win? Pandemic Legacy. What do I think should win? Pandemic Legacy. It's really the same there. Even though I personally like Time Stories better, I think Pandemic Legacy has brought something, and it's just like taken the world by storm. And now it's unusual that they have two games that cannot be replayed as nominated here, and I like that. I think it's cool. I think that this shows that the jury itself is not, they're still relevant. They know what's going on. Even more interestingly enough, if you look at the recommended list, they have Seven Wonders Duel, Mombasa, and Blood Rage, which are three solid games. And Blood Rage isn't even, it's like only half a Euro game. So it's kind of interesting how this all works together. But, and then I won't talk much about the kids' games right now. They always do a great job picking kids' games, but we always have a horrible time getting these games to America. I have Stone Age Junior. I'm going to be playing that one, or I think in America it's called My First Stone Age. So I'll review that one as soon as I can. But unfortunately, the kids' games don't make it over. But I will say this. As an American, it used to be that the Spiel des Jahres nominees would come out, we'd be like, wow, what are these games? And we have to go hunt down all the games and find them. This year, I played all the games except Imhotep, and I had that in my hand when the awards were not nominated. We also have American designers that are involved here. And what I think this goes to show is that the board gaming community is no longer fragmented nationally. It's certainly an international community. We have Blood Rage, which is most definitely a game that was initially printed in America with a mere thrashy style to it. We have Isle of Skye, which is, on the other hand, which is very Euro-y. We have Pandemic Legacy, another American designer. We have Time Stories, which I believe originated from France. And it's just really cool to see all these games. And, I mean, you could complain about these. These aren't the best games at all. But really, all these games on these lists are highly, highly rated. You might be upset that Seven Wonders Duel didn't make it, but a two-player game never wins the Spiel des Jahres anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm very, very impressed. I think this is one of the best slates of games we've ever seen. They may not be the three best games in each category that I would pick, but they are three games that I can get behind and say, wow, this is an award worth talking about. Is the Spiel des Jahres still relevant? Absolutely yes. And so when the winners are announced, will people take notice? Yes. And this is only good for the hobby.
Hi guys, my name is Dave Luza and this is Playing the News. Playing is my life. When it's not at a table playing a board game, you can find me playing on stage. And the end of May also marks the end of the theater season, and tonight is the last night that I am performing this show with my colleagues of Op Sterk Water in the Netherlands. This week I am playing a game that's all about the magic of theater. This week I am playing Trickerion. In Trickerion, players take on the role of 19th century magicians. All magicians have different fields of expertise and will hire a team that fits their needs so they can become the most reputable. Players plan their action in secret and resolve them in the order as they seem fit, trying to beat the other players to the different locations on the board. During the game, you will use your people to gain the best new illusions, pick up the necessary components and prepare them in your workshop. In the theater, the right tricks in the right order will gain the players fame and coins. Trickerion is not an easy game, but it is great to see how everything worked in the 19th century. It's full of theme and I really enjoy playing it. So if you love theater and if you love board games, then I recommend Trickerion. For Board Game Breakfast, my name is Dave Luza and this has been Playing the News.
Hello, my name is Niels, Cyril's Brettspiele, and in the best and the worst, we are going this time into the jungle. Karuba Harbor Games, let's see.
The best part on Karuba, and I always call that Carcassonne, just because of the tiles, meets Bingo, meets Indiana Jones. So the cool fact on that game is everybody has the same exact starting. And then you are drawing one of these tiles secretly, you flip it over, say 28 in this case, and everybody has to pick 28. And then you have two options what you can do. Either you place this tile 28 when you think it's good, or you discard it and then you move up to the number of exits with one of these explorers. So in this case, when you flip that over to the spots 1, 2. What I don't like on the game, and maybe you will love right now, so you can play that game easily in 20 or 25 minutes. However, when the game is over, you immediately want to restart the game. Everybody wants to replay the game. So you simply take off this meeples here. That is easy. Then you take off your tiles. That's easy too. But when you play that game with 4 players, for an example, 3 of them has to sort these tiles more or less by numbers or at least in groups. The other ones has to sort that out by numbers, and that stinks.
Thanks so much for watching. Always my best and the worst. And this time we watched Karuba. Let me know your favorite parts of Karuba and probably your worst parts as well. My name is Niels, Cyril's Brettspiele, and see you next time. And please send your comments. As always, I really appreciate that. So see you next time. Bye bye.
Whenever I go to the store, I'm thinking, hey, what things here can I use in board games? So today I'm talking about the top 5 stores that I like to go to as a board gamer thinking about games. Now, obviously, I'm excluding hobby/game stores because they're number 1. But here we go. Number 5 is toy stores. And not because they have a selection of games, but I go to the toy section of any store or go to a toy store itself because I'm looking for little pieces to use in a game. Like, oh, here's little aliens. Maybe I can stick them in Pandemic and make it an alien invasion. Here's little soldiers. Maybe I can stick them in this game for whatever reason. Number 4 is the dollar store. Again, pretty much the same reason. You never know what things you might find for $1 that work for games, or little dollar containers or something. Whenever I go to a dollar store, I'm thinking, ooh, is there something here I can use for games? Number 3 is the craft stores, like Michael's and things like that, where you go in, obviously, plastic bags, but beads or little wooden pieces. Again, I'm like, ooh, what things? Now, you'll notice that most of my store things are about blinging games out, making games cooler looking, but that's just how I think. Number 2 is the thrift stores. Whenever I drive by any thrift store, I think I should stop and look for hats and ties. Well, besides that, I also want to look for games. There's always a good chance that there's some kind of game at a thrift store, or again, maybe game pieces from games that I can pull out and use in other games. And my number 1 favorite store to go to as a board gamer is the Container Store. Now, this is a specific store It's not everywhere, but we have one here in Miami, and it's amazing. Every time I go there, I'm like, ooh, I can store my games here. I can store my games like this. I can store games in here. Now, I store all sorts of things. I use it for all, I store my house has many things, but the Container Store, I've spent an inordinate amount of money there for gaming purposes probably than any of the other stores on my list. So those are my favorite stores to go to as a board gamer. What are yours? Tell me in the comments.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. I'm a big fan of Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and knowing what a great job Bezier Games did on the Suburbia app, I was stoked when I heard that Castles was getting an app too. How did they do bringing this table hog of a game down to app size? Let's take a quick look. Akin to a city builder, Castles of Mad King Ludwig involves placing different shaped room pieces together to take advantage of the bonus cards to maximize your score. The most intriguing mechanism of the game is that players take turns being the master builder who sets the price of each room, adding a huge strategic and tactical element to the game. Bezier did a great job with this app. There's a thorough tutorial that steps you through all the primary elements of the game, and under the Help menu, the rules and the card and favor references are all available. More importantly, the interface is really intuitive, and most of the info you want is available with a quick tap. And once you get used to the iconography, you'll find you need to zoom in less often to see the details. For an intricate game, this plays surprisingly well on the phone too. There are a couple of AIs that you can play against, and the pass and play works really well. Currently, there is no online play, but I'll keep my fingers crossed that it'll happen in the future. My other nitpick is that the rotate and the confirm buttons are really close to each other, and I've accidentally placed tiles a number of times, and there's no undo button. But the nicest treat in the game is that there is a solo play campaign mode that challenges you to complete specific goals with prearranged setups. These are fun and challenging and variable since tile and cards will switch each time you play. I spoke to the developer and they're hoping to release even more campaign levels in the future. Castles of Mad King Ludwig is an excellent app for an excellent game. I'm hoping eventually we'll get online play and the Secrets expansion too. But even without those, you should definitely give this a try.
And that's it for another Board Game Breakfast. A huge thank you to all my contributors and everyone who sent stuff in. And if you are in England, I hope to say hi to you at the UK Gaming Expo. I'm very excited about that. Make sure you come up and say hi to us. I always read people say, oh, I didn't want to bother you. Bother us. That's why we are there. So I can't wait to see that. I'll talk to some of you later on today in my live Q&A. And don't forget, we're going to be a day late next week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. This has been Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.